Yeah.
So tell me a little about faith and belief.
Yeah, so I think there are two main differences between faith and belief, and one is a little more controversial than the other. So the first that a lot of people kind of working on faith have noticed is that when you believe something, there's a lot of things we believe that we have no desire at all to be true. I believe I missed my flight. I believe there's like terrible tragedies going on around the world, and it's totally normal and common to think we have beliefs that we have no desire to be true. But faith, on the other hand, one thing that makes it different than belief is a lot of people think when you have faith that something's true, that requires some kind of desire that it's true. So if I say, let's say you're running a marathon, and I'm like, Cameron, I have faith you're going to win this marathon, but I hope you lose. I hope you get last place. People think that doesn't make sense. You really don't have faith. So one difference between faith and belief is that faith has this desire component that belief doesn't.
Okay.
And then a second difference, which I think we'll get more into in the interview, but I'll just mention briefly, is that I think faith goes beyond the evidence in a way that belief doesn't. So people think, you could have good evidence that justifies belief, but if you get a good amount of counter evidence, then you shouldn't believe anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people working on faith think, nonetheless, you could actually still have faith in that situation. And this might have a really surprising result. This is controversial, but that sometimes you can have faith even if you don't have evidence that quite is strong enough for belief. And so some philosophers have suggested this might be one way that faith can kind of go beyond the evidence. So
one thing in your work that I've noticed is interesting is the way that you define belief. So tell me a little about how you define belief, and then maybe define faith. Or is the definition sort of built into these distinctions that you make between the two? How does that work? Maybe just the definition of belief, and then we can go from there.
So belief, I would say, is kind of a commitment to the world being a certain way.
Okay.
So if you believe it's raining, then you're sort of saying the world is such that it's raining. Whereas faith, I think, what kind of separates faith from belief is sort of those two components I was talking about earlier. One is, I think, faith is consistent with more counter evidence. You could still have rational faith even if you have counter evidence that doesn't justify you to believe. And the other is that desire component. So faith kind of requires a desire for the proposition to be true, whereas belief doesn't.
Okay, but faith is still something that you're like committing in the world. Like this is the way that you're living your life toward this ideal. Now, one thing that I find interesting about your work is that faith in apologetic conversations is normally defined as trust. Mm-hmm. So how would your understanding of faith differ from that, like a basic, or the more common way of defining faith in these apologetic conversations?
I mean, I'm pretty open to the idea that there is an important trust component to faith, especially when we're thinking about kind of like interpersonal faith or faith in God. I do, in my work, tend to focus on what's called propositional faith. So it's kind of faith that some statement or proposition is true. And so there might be cases where if you say like, I don't know, for some reason you say I have faith that it's raining, that might be weird to say I trust that it's raining. I mean, maybe you could say that. But I do focus on propositional faith, whereas trust might be kind of a more specific kind of faith, like faith in a person or faith in God. So,
okay, I like that. I like that. So the trust definition of faith is a little bit more narrow.
Yeah, potentially.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
One example that Dr. Tim McGrew gives is you're about to go jump out of a plane and parachute, right? You're not just going to jump out, but you're parachuting. And he says that even though you know that most people make it to the ground alive, and it's like 99 point whatever % chance that you're going to make it to the ground alive and safe and everything, you're still putting your faith in this person. Would you say that falls more within the narrow definition of like the trust? Or does that, I guess that would actually fall into both, right? Because yours is more like you're committing your life in this one, at least in this one case, toward this direction of like, you're going to jump out of this plane.
Yeah, you could
right?
say,
so it'd be kind of both.
You could say you have faith that, your parachute will hold you, or you have faith in the person that has sort of set up the situation that they know what they're doing. Or I guess sometimes you even parachute with someone with you, so you have faith that that person's going to make sure you don't, die or something. So yeah, I think you could capture both the trust and the propositional elements of faith in that example.